Well, I want to welcome everyone back to our ShiftED podcast series. We started doing these post-pandemic podcasts, talking to our Quebec educators to share it to our community, to just kind of get a vibe of what's going on out there in our educational field. And today I have the great privilege of welcoming Katherine Divolis, who is currently working at the ministry on the preschool program. So today we're going to have a little conversation about the new program and kind of how it came to being, and kind of some ideas for teachers and where PD might happen, etc., to kind of support this new program, because it is pretty fantastic. So Katherine, hello. I would like to wish you a fine, crisp Monday morning.
Mhm.
How are you doing today?
I'm great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. It was a wonderful weekend, and now I get to start off a great week having a great conversation. So thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So, Katherine, let's just start off. Big question here. What got you interested in education? Like, as you were, going through CEGEP, and like, what was the spark that got you, I need to be an educator?
Oh, yeah, interesting question. So
Mhm.
I always had wonderful experiences with my own teachers all throughout my school years in elementary school and in high school. I always looked up to them. They were my mentors. I loved going to school. I loved discovering new things. I felt that I could actually track my own development. And so I pretty much knew I wanted to go into teaching when I was close to 12 years old. I was set, I was decided. I never changed my mind. I love children. I never ever looked into another field. And then when I pursued my studies in CEGEP and then in university, I actually did both Concordia and McGill. And I studied for 8 years in university to specialize.
Oh,
I realized that, as soon as I got into the classroom, the first couple of years, it was exactly what I was searching for, was to see that magical moment in a child's eyes when something clicked and they made their own discoveries. And I
oh,
felt that, yes, this is exactly what I was always longing for, what I was searching for, is to guide them to get to that point. And so I'm very, very satisfied with my career choice. I've been
yeah,
working for, as you know, Chris, because
yeah,
we've been working together as well. I think you were going
yeah.
to ask me what board I'm affiliated with.
Yeah. Where did you come from um, before you joined the MEQ?
So yes, so I've been with the Lester B. Pearson School Board for 20 years. Very loyal. I never switched boards, and I worked at as a kindergarten teacher, of course, at Forest Hill Junior in Saint Lazare, and
Okay.
then I was at St. Paul Elementary School, which since then has turned into Sherbrooke Academy Junior in
Right.
Beaconsfield,
Right.
and then I'm on a loan of service with the preschool education team at the Ministry of Education since last January. So I've been doing this for about a year and I'm loving it. I work with a wonderful group of fantastic collaborators.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great team. You guys have been out there with this new program, which
Absolutely.
our community just loves. And it's exciting, eh? This new program. I can't wait to just dive into it. But um, so you started off at Lester B, and now you're on a loan of service and you're working on the preschool program itself.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive into that new program. I mean, can you talk about the new preschool? Tell us like how it came to be, because I'm sure it took some time for it to evolve into its current state.
Yes, and it was actually quite the process, Chris, I must say. So I will try to give you a brief overview, but I don't really want to leave anything out because I really need to put an emphasis on how much work went into this.
Oh,
So
I'm sure like many players were involved. I'm sure to get to
absolutely, absolutely.
awesome.
So teachers probably recall that after the kindergarten for 4-year-olds program was created close to about a decade ago, This was the Projet Programme. It was very well received by the K4 teachers, but it was also very interesting to the K5 teachers who enjoyed many aspects of this K4 program. And they also felt that perhaps it was time for the kindergarten for 5-year-olds program to be updated. So there was this desire to really experience preschool as a cycle and not as two separate grades. And then the rest followed. So for example, the MEQ carefully considered the needs of the kindergarten teachers and listened to them regarding wanting a cycle program in preschool. After that, there was a consultation group that was formed in 2018, and it consisted of representatives from all regions of the province, including K4 and K5 teachers from both French and English school boards, from the public school system and from the private sector. So these were individuals nominated by their respective boards who did not necessarily know each other, but they were considered because of their expertise in the field of education. There were many consultation meetings, Chris, with the MEQ team, where the goal was to take a closer look at both the K4 and K5 programs and discuss what would be significant to retain in regards to child development.
Right.
And what was different and similar in both programs was also discussed. So this was a long process, and it took a year of going back and forth where these individuals really took the time necessary to deconstruct, I would say, both programs. Right. What came out of that process was a compilation of information that individuals from the field had provided, and it really fusioned both K4 and K5 programs. So after that, the next step was to put it all together. And in 2018, a first version appeared, which was reviewed by various stakeholders, which included partners from the education field, of course, the unions, the AEPQ, university professors, a scientific community had also been consulted. So this, I'm almost done, Chris, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so this,
no, it's great.
But there's so much to share about this.
For sure.
Yeah, so this consultation process basically involved a large number of specialists that had a level of expertise in child development. There were also other experts that were appointed to conduct research in regards to the characteristics and the needs of a 4 to 6-year-old child. So once that version had been finalized, there was a period where teachers and preschool education consultants had been selected to do a trial run of the program. And it was not the same teachers that had participated during the consultation process. So finally, all the comments and the reflections that were pointed out during this trial period were considered, and there were some final adjustments that had been made. And so as we all know, as of August 2021, the preschool cycle program has been the mandated and sole prescriptive program for all kindergarten classes in our province.
Excellent. What a journey, though, eh? I mean, it sounds like there was many players involved, and it really got vetted so that it was the best that it could be.
Yes, I agree.
Tell me, Katherine, what's the benefits of a cycle program as opposed to having a K4, K5? Why fuse them together? What would be the benefits of those, of bringing them together as one unit, or one cycle, I should say?
Well, first of all, it was something that the teachers were wanting. It was something that they hoped for. So we also mentioned this earlier. Many preschool teachers had been hoping for a cycle program in kindergarten for a long time. They inspired themselves because from the primary and the secondary levels, because those are still and had been divided into cycles. So to them, it was only logical that a developmental program be divided into a cycle as well. So for instance, we can reference ourselves in the Quebec education program. In the very first pages of the Quebec education program, it does state that in a cycle, the organizational mode takes into account the development of skills over time. So we give ourselves about 2 years, which would really be representing a cycle. It also states that it allows for learning activities and projects to evolve during that time period, right?
Yes.
So it involves long-term pedagogical interventions. It favors greater pedagogical differentiation practices, and all of that can be found in the Quebec Education Program on page 5. So in
Right.
preschool education, the cycle is at the service of children's learning. It
Right.
offers equal opportunities to develop in different areas in order to succeed and to learn throughout life.
Right. It's kind of like a prep course for life for these our youngest learner. I mean, it really gets them ready for a life of learning.
It's filling up their little learner's toolkit for life and bringing it
Yeah.
with them wherever they go. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that too, that it's looking at development, the individual development of the child, and that it's progressive, right? Like it happens at different stages for all of our littlest learners, but they all kind of develop this through the same stages, correct?
Yes, and they follow at their own pace, right? And as
Right.
teachers, we guide them and we support them by respecting their own pace. Absolutely.
Right. Well, it brings me to this question too. I've been kind of into mindsets a lot. Like when I'm delving into kind of outdoor ed, and what's the mindset you need to have when you go into outdoor ed, for example. So a similar question to that is, what is the preschool mindset? Like how should I, if I'm a teacher or going into preschool, or what's that mindset do you think that is needed to be able to fulfill that position?
That's an excellent question, Chris. I'd have to say that first and foremost, I think it's necessary to have a positive outlook on the importance of play. Secondly, I think that an educator would need a high tolerance for an elevated noise level. That's
Yeah.
necessary, but it's not just for the teachers and educators, but for all those individuals that are working around the
Right.
children in kindergarten. Sometimes what I used to do is I would picture the children in my classroom just like buzzing around like little bees, and my classroom would be the hive.
Right.
So it
That's
would be
great. Yeah.
noisy. There's like a bunch of effervescence going around.
Right.
They're buzzing, constantly developing and learning. And
Mhm.
I wanted them to be full of excitement.
Mhm.
This is actually what allows me to paint a clear portrait in my head of what a kindergarten classroom should be all about. I also think we should keep in mind that by adopting an inclusive and caring stance as teachers, we are welcoming the child and supporting all children in their development and allowing them to reach their full potential, but also to build their little learner's toolkit for life, as we mentioned earlier, and to take it with them wherever they go.
Absolutely. I mean, it's that foundation, right? That you're creating in preschool for a life, right? For years and decades to come.
Yes. Yeah.
I've always felt that preschool is probably one of the most important um, jobs in our society, because it is the building blocks for the future. These
Yes.
are going to be our young rulers one day, and taking care of us when we're old and gray. Let's not go
Yes.
there, but
No, we're not there yet.
I loved your imagery of this class like a beehive. I mean, what a great image of buzzing around and kids doing different things at different areas. It kind of, can you expand on that a bit? So, like, what's that look and feel that we're looking for when we go into a preschool classroom? And say, for example, it's just, a parent walking in and seeing what would that person see when they walk into what should it look and feel like, in your opinion?
So it should be, obviously we're not going to lie and say that it should not be aesthetically pleasing. Of course, it should be aesthetically
Right.
pleasing, but it's also going to reflect the personality of its occupants. And that
Mm.
includes, of course, the children in the classroom and the teacher. But
Mhm.
above all, parents should be able to notice that it's a reassuring and welcoming and inclusive environment. These are all words that have been taken from the program. So there is an emphasis on inclusion and the reassurance and how we should be welcoming the children into our classrooms every day.
Right.
It should allow for children to develop and to learn, but also, this is very important, it should allow them to feel recognized and
Mm.
accepted for who they are, which is
Right.
just that. They are 4 to 6-year-old children with
Mhm.
their own characteristics and their needs. I
Hmm.
also would say, Chris, that it should be a warm and open space that
Yes.
is, of course, physically adapted to the needs of 4 to 6-year-old children, and it has to be safe and accessible.
Right.
A preschool classroom should be organized in a way as to foster the children's participation and encourage them to explore different types of play. So,
Right.
of course, there are some basic principles that cannot be ignored when planning the layout of a kindergarten classroom.
Hmm.
So, for
Yes.
example, I would tell teachers that the design of the classroom must take into account or should take into account the 5 areas of development that we find in the program, but it
Right.
should also take into account the organization of the space and the organization of the day. It's obvious that the child needs an environment that will stimulate him visually, like we said earlier. But the most important thing is to design such a space that will allow him to feel accepted and recognized again for who he is. So, hoping that this inclusive environment will allow the child to enjoy learning. We also hope that it will offer, different opportunities for exploration and also a chance to make discoveries. So, talking about the ideal room and the ideal materials and having the perfect accessories, it's not a realistic expectation, but rather trying to foster a space that, is accessible and safe, where the child feels happy, active, and becomes engaged in his learning. Well, that's what the goal should be. How to
Right.
foster a space where the child feels well is what we say in French, son bien-être. It's
Right.
very important.
Right. I love the word that you use, that the classroom should be open. And you alluded to it, that physically open, but also um, for the child's mind to be open, right? That everything is possible,
Yes.
and there's inclusion, and the child feels like they are um, a part of this community, a part of this group, a part of this.
Recognized, a part of the
Yeah,
community, accepted, of
absolutely.
course.
That's so amazing. It's powerful. It seems simple, but it's teachers are like orchestra conductors, right? Where you have to orchestrate, particularly in preschool. I'm guessing. I mean, I've worked a little bit with our youngest learners, but um, throughout the day, you're kind of orchestrating and facilitating this development to happen.
Facilitating, yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very interesting. Now, I mean, the program is I mean, I love it. I mean, I've been reading through it, and the documentation that the ministry has provided is really insightful. Those 3 documents that accompany it, where they look at play in the classroom design, and observing, looking at
Mhm.
children engaged in play. Why is play so important? Because oftentimes I think we see play as kind of it's outside of learning, right? It's not seen as, we go and play during recess or at lunch. The actual idea of play for learning can be kind of a new concept for teachers to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, and yet for some, I think it's as old as day itself. Because
Mm-hmm.
for myself as a teacher, I always devoted so much time to play,
Right.
and it was interesting to see just how much the children would evolve during any type of play activity that they would be engaging in. And you see all the areas of development really
Right.
come into the synergy, and you can actually see this interrelation. So it's not only is it a wonderful and joyful experience for the children, but it really is the child's ideal way to learn. And I love that the program just, it states that from the very beginning. And the
Yeah.
more the children get to play, we do mention that, we should offer the children 2 periods between 45 and 60 minutes of
Right.
continuous play during a day. But a lot of the teachers have already done that. They were doing so. I know
Right.
with the teachers that I had worked with, it was such an important part of our teaching routine, and we really enjoyed the outdoors. So it's something that's always been part of kindergarten and preschool in general.
Yeah. If only we could push that further up into cycle 1. Sometimes
I
this
agree.
idea
I
of this
agree.
lifelong kindergarten or lifelong preschool, that play is a part of the learning process rather than kind of
Yes.
removed from it. I find when hands get involved, learning goes deep and tends to stick better inside the
Yes, yes,
learner,
Chris, of course.
once you get those hands going. So let's kind of jump to what are those differences, Katherine? So oftentimes teachers flip-flop, right? Like they'll be teaching in Cycle 1 and then they need a teacher in preschool, so they'll move to preschool, or the other way, right? The pendulum kind of swings there. What's the difference between a preschool cycle and your first Cycle 1 elementary? Like, what would be the main differences between those two? I imagine the approach and the environment are going to be very, very different.
Yes. However, if we have to also talk about the programs themselves, the programs are different because
Correct.
the preschool cycle program is a developmental program, and
Right.
the Cycle 1 program is a disciplinary one. So Cycle 1, we're talking about grade 1 and grade 2.
Mm-hmm.
In preschool, there's no progression of learning. Right?
Right.
There's no specific content that is organized in a way with specific expectations. What we do is we observe the child in preschool in his development, and we look carefully at how he is developing in
Mm.
all 5 areas.
Right.
The time allotted to play, again, we're going back to play because it's so
Mm-hmm.
important. It's
Right.
so crucial in kindergarten, and it's the first orientation of our preschool cycle program. In Cycle 1, there is less time devoted to play. And as the
Right.
years go by, even less so in school.
I agree.
So
I
the
agree.
support that teachers offer is also significant because in preschool, the children are supported in all areas of development. The classroom organization is another one of the 3 orientations, and it is considered very carefully as the
Mm-hmm.
classroom environment in which the child plays and engages in all types of learning opportunities should respond to the needs of a 4 to 6-year-old child. It has to be organized in a way to equip him with all that he needs to develop and to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love play. Even as an adult, I try to play as much as I can, because I do feel there are such great benefits and development of skills that come into play as you play.
But we must, Chris. I mean, Stuart
Yeah.
Brown, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
always talking about how we should continue playing as adults, and even
Right.
when we're much older. And he really makes us think about like, why did we stop playing, or you know,
Mm-hmm.
or when was the last time we played, and how did it make us feel? So we have to keep playing. It's so important.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I love it. Um, well, in closing, Katherine, what advice would you give a preschool educator, um, if they're implementing this new program? What are a few of your salient takeaways that you would want teachers to leave, um, understanding or embodying, in regards to the preschool program?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually. I would say to the teachers that right now is really a wonderful time to be a kindergarten teacher. So honestly, enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
This new program, which places the child at the center and acknowledges the fact that the child should be given enough time to explore and learn at his own pace. It's a program that recognizes play to be the child's ideal way to learn. How wonderful is that? The
Yeah.
emphasis on indoor play just as much as outdoor play. And Chris, you've been
Mm-hmm.
working a lot in that regard.
Yeah.
It also recognizes the teacher's expertise and promotes school, family, and community
Mm-hmm.
collaboration. This
Yes.
cycle, the preschool cycle, gives time to the child to learn, and it also gives the teacher an opportunity to respect the pace of the child in his development. I find personally that myself and my colleagues and the teachers I had been working with, we find that the
Mm-hmm.
program really has everything to guide and fuel the teachers in their learning process and to implement it as well. We all agree that it's user friendly. The table of the areas of development is
Mm-hmm.
colorful. The
Mm-hmm.
colors have been carefully selected to reflect the spheres of development. There are key features that are present for each competency. There are observable behaviors to guide the teachers in their observations, but also to guide them in their planning. It's been well written. We mentioned earlier all the research that was conducted in order to create the program. I would also say, I think, to the teachers that it's simple to embrace this program. It has everything we need us as teachers to feel recognized and content and even confident in our profession, as we have been given a program that will help our little bees to learn and develop so many strategies. It's a program, but it's also a tool that allows us to look at the child, to look at what the child rather can do, and to reflect on the interventions we need to put in place to support all the children in our classroom. I also, in closing, I want to say to all the teachers that I am envious of you guys right now, and I can't wait myself to return back to the classroom at some point to implement the preschool cycle program, because I'm really excited to watch my little learners buzz around with excitement. I really miss that, and I just to see them eager to learn every day and to watch them develop to their full potential.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I want to thank you, Katherine, for spending some time with us here today. I just a note, I will put the links to the program in the descriptor, so you have access to those, everyone. So if you want to have a look at them, but your words have been really, really inspiring, and make me want to go back to the classroom too and teach kindergarten kids a level I've never taught. But
yeah, oh my God, I think it would
just
be
be
great.
so fun.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and really for allowing me to talk about the genesis of this program and its orientations and its components and what it entails. And I think for teachers, this podcast, just your questions will be very inspiring, and hopefully our answers as well, to guide the teachers in this new endeavor.
Absolutely. Well, it's a new journey for everyone, right? So it's a lifelong journey as well. So it's been a real pleasure kind of exploring the journey of how the program became and also its future. And I think the future is bright for our preschool kids. I really, really do. I think that the orientation of this project and the work that the ministry has done with all of its players that it got involved to make something that's solid and that's based on the development of our youngest learners, which I think is crucial as we move forward. So thank you very much, Katherine. I wish you a wonderful end of your journey with the MEQ. And when you get back in that classroom, let's touch base again. I'd love to hear about the stories of implementing this program.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye. Cool.